Dear Diary, making the decision to immigrate to Calgary felt like I was placing an Amazon order for freedom, endless possibilities, social security, and a beautiful world of seamlessly integrated multiculturalism. Only instead of autofilling my credit card information, clicking buy now, and receiving my package the next day, I spent months filling out paperwork and acquiring various documentations. And I spent years waiting for my visa. And when my metaphorical package finally did arrive, it wasn't exactly what I ordered.
We're Onya and Tomi, and on Diary of a Niger Immigrant, we're talking about what happens after you buy that one-way ticket. We'll chat with guests and hear their immigration stories. We'll commiserate, celebrate wins, and gossip about recent microaggressions. Buckle up, y'all.
This is part 2 of our conversation with Ejemen. If you missed part 1, be sure to check that out first, and then join us back here. Okay, let's get to it.
And I know that I'm not built to fail.
Yeah.
Right? So it kind of motivates me.
I feel like that's such an important piece, though, when you're talking about taking space. Like when something happens and it shows up and it absolutely breaks you. I feel like, I know for me, like my inclination would just be like to respond right away or to react.
I didn't say anything
And
to her.
the fact that you were just like, nope, I need a second, I need a nap, and I need space from this because, like you said, you put yourself in a position to have options. You put yourself in a position to actually have the life you want versus, maybe reacting in a certain way. And then you're like, well, yeah, like you said, like you're like, this is the end. But not because I actually made a conscious decision of this is what I wanted, but just because I was so overwhelmed, which also would be very fair if that did happen. Yeah. But the fact that you took that space, like, I love that. It's so great.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So another thing I wanted to find, like, you sell African food and all of that, and you mentioned something about people saying African food is yucky and things like that. I assume because you have young kids and they go to school, you give them some African food to take to school. Do. And what kind of African food, first of all, do you give them to take to school?
Well, the things that they enjoy. So jollof rice, rice and stew, fried yams, fried plantains, things like that. Spaghetti is made in Nigerian way. It's spicy. Yeah, that's what I give them. Okay,
that's really cool. But I'm just curious because I've heard so many people say that they feel very uncomfortable taking their own African food to school because of the perception that their Caucasian counterparts have about it, and that they open the plate and then maybe some kids are like shutting their nose and they're like, what the hell is that kind of thing. I'm just wondering, have you had that kind of experience and how have you handled it?
So when my daughter started in kindergarten, I'll give her like the stuff she's used to, fried plantains, jollof rice, mostly jollof rice and plantains, things like that. And then a few months into school, she came back and was like, can she take a sandwich? And I'm like, sandwich is not food. and so I'm like, where's this coming from? So we had already started having conversations. She's a black girl. She has black hair. She has kinky hair. So we had already started talking about like the fact that she's unique and she doesn't have to look like anybody else. So all the questions about, can you straighten my hair? We had already started to go through that.
How old was she when you started to
she
go
was
through that conversation?
5, kindergarten, so she was about 5.
Yeah.
Ish. And then she would want ponytails. And I'm like, well, your hair can do puffs. You can't do ponytails. Yeah. That's your hair. Well, anyway, you asked me about food. So she came back and was saying,
just go all the way.
So I'm very pro-Black, pro-African, and I try to inculcate that in my kids to ensure that wherever they are, they're not intimidated by the color of anybody else's skin, and nobody else makes them feel anything less than who they are. So we had started the hair talk, and when the food matter came up and she was like, she wanted sandwiches, and I'm like, why? Because sandwich is not food. You're spending 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock in school, or 3:30ish. A sandwich is not going to keep you hungry, keep you full. You have to eat proper food. And she's like, her friends bring sandwiches, and they're always asking her, what is this? Why is your rice orange, and why is this and all of that?
Wow, yeah.
And I said, so why is your rice orange? She says, because it's, and I'm like, do you know what jollof rice is? She says, no. I'm like, okay, because it's orange because we cook it in tomato sauce. Do you know what tomato is? She's like, yes. Do you know what rice is? She says, then tell your friends, it's rice cooked in tomato sauce. Do they want to taste it? So rather than say, oh, yes, don't touch my food because my food smells, ask them, I know it's new to you. Is it something you might want to taste? Because it's interesting. Try it, right? So rather than being aggressive or trying to say, ask them if it's a flavor they might want to try, and tell them that just the way sandwiches is unique to their own culture, that's the way rice is unique to your own culture. It's something you eat at home, and there's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of it. Do you like jollof rice? She says yes. Do you like sandwiches? She's like, not really. So why do you want to take something to school that you don't like just to please somebody else? Okay. And she was like, oh, okay. And then she went to school, and then that kind of passed. I'm like, are you okay with it? She's like, yeah, she's fine. She eats her food. And then in grade 1, they did like a cultural day. And I said to her, I'm going to come to your school and I'm going to bring jollof rice. Okay. And she was like, oh, okay. So I took jollof rice, I took meat pies, and I took chin chin. And everybody, all the kids wanted to try the food. They're like, oh, it's so delicious. It's so nice. And I said, when we got home, I said to her, did you see that the only reason why they didn't understand your food, they were looking at your food fun, is because they didn't understand. They have never seen it before. It was, you can tell them, you can explain it to them, though you don't have to explain all the time. But also understand that sometimes when people turn up their nose at something that you're doing, it's because they don't know and they don't understand. Okay, and kids can be mean, but you can't stop doing something that you enjoy because people do not understand it. Do you understand?
That's
so
deep.
they take everything to school now, but there's no drama anymore.
Yeah.
Even her hair. At first, she won't want to put her hair in a bun. She said they always have to put like a faux paw or puff or things like that. So she can take her hair to school anyway now.
Wow.
And there's no drama. I tell her, if I relax your hair, it's going to ruin your hair. Is it worth it? She says, no, it's not. So because I already had that track record with her sister, with the big one, the younger one, I don't have such drama with her because she grew up listening to me talk about the uniqueness of our hair, uniqueness of our food, uniqueness of our culture. They also learned my language. And at first she was like, oh, don't speak to me in my language outside. And then one day we were walking in her school, and then there was a Chinese parent talking to their child, and the child was responding. And I said, did you hear that? She said, yes. I said, they're immigrants just like you. They're speaking their language and he's proud of it. You cannot speak English all the days of your life. You are from somewhere. You come from somewhere. Okay? And you speak the language of your people. And she speaks, not too much, but she understands. If I speak to her in public, she doesn't act like she doesn't understand anymore. At first she'll be like, what did you say? You will understand.
That's so funny. I love that it actually worked. That you're like, if I relax your hair, it'll ruin your hair. Like, is that worth it? I love that.
Yeah, and she says, oh, will it go back to being curly? I'm like, never.
Yeah, I'm like,
no.
cut, rewind to me. I was like burning my hair off. I was like, yes, it's worth it. I was like, I don't care.
And luckily, we're surrounded by women who carry their natural hair. My sister is natural with a big fro.
Nice.
At the time, I had long dreadlocks.
Yeah.
My hair still is natural, even under all of this.
Wow,
and then I had friends, like all natural. So I said, what's your inspiration? Really? This is how Africans' hair look. And every time we watch on TV and there's a big afro, I'm like, look, that's beautiful hair. Can you see how beautiful that is? So I kept showing her the beauty in African hair, in our braids and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now she picks her own hairstyles, and I don't hear talk about I want to straighten my hair and all of that anymore.
Is so cool. Like, I feel like you're the model for an African mom, African immigrant mom. So that's really cool.
Just like being African, and I want my kids to love being African, even if they don't live in Africa anymore.
Yeah.
Just enjoy being who you are. No matter where you are, kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like you touched on this a little bit in terms of kind of misconceptions, and you talked about how people often will turn their nose up about something, and it's honestly just the fact that it's ignorance and they don't know about it and everything like that. So we've kind of touched on that. But is there a misconception or something that you kind of hear often that you have either been surprised by, or something that, I mean, again, you talked about the fact that people say that, like, oh, Nigerian food is unappealing, or is there any other kind of misconceptions that you often hear, whether about food or anything else?
Well, African hair doesn't grow.
Yeah,
Really?
That's not
Huge.
true.
Yeah.
It grows.
Yeah.
If it's well taken care of,
Yeah.
it grows. If you put in the work, it grows. So I put in a lot of work in my kids' hair, and I can see the difference of how the textures are evolving with loving care, like not loving, like using the right product. So both girls have completely different textures. So I had to find what hair care works for one and what hair care works for the other one. So if I'm putting protein in this one's hair, the other one's hair doesn't like protein. Do you get? It took a lot of trial and error to get to the point where I am now. So my big daughter has like really thick, stretchy black hair, while the other one has a totally different texture. Do you get? So yeah, so that the whole idea of black hair doesn't grow. I think black hair grows if you put in the work. The reason why they say it feels like it doesn't grow is because we're not taught properly how to take care of our hair.
Yeah.
As soon as the hair grows out of your hair, they're putting some kind of relaxer on it. Do you get? So they tell us, oh, it's hard to comb. It's hard to comb.
Right. Yeah. Like,
But that doesn't mean you should give up.
Yeah.
You comb your hair. You put something in it, like some oil or some what's it called?
like
Conditioner.
Conditioner, yeah.
And you comb your hair. Like, so if it was hard to breathe, you cut off your nose. Like, I don't understand. How can you say because it's hard, then you have to put some chemical on it to make it easier? Do you get those kind of things? So I teach my girls now, so they know when they wash their hair, the next thing is conditioner, and they put and they steam it. Do you get? So they know how, they're learning how to take care of their hair and all of that. So that's one. The black hair doesn't grow. One is annoying.
Yeah.
And of course, the whole black food, Nigerian food, so I'll speak for Nigerian food because I don't know too much about other African countries' cuisine. Nigerian food is unappealing. Oh, it's too this, it's too messy, it's too that. That's not true. It's just like every other food. It's like telling me, like when they dip bread in soup. It's
soggy.
soggy, but they eat it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's more about a presentation, and that matters, not necessarily the food itself. Okay,
That's
so yeah.
so cool. So speaking of entrepreneurship, when we were coming upstairs, that was when I had the realization that your entire family is here and all of you are doing business here in Canada. So basically, tell me about that. Like, how did your mom come here? How did your sister come here? And what led to the point where, because I know you've told me before that your mom does child minding.
Yeah.
And then just coming upstairs, you told me that because she was eating meat pie when she was going. I was like, where did you get that from? And she was like, oh, her mom made it. Her mom makes meat pie and all this kind of thing. I was like, all of you are doing this.
Yeah, I love
so
that.
Why? Like, was it through you? Like, was it when you started? What led to that? And how has it been for, like, just walk me through that.
No, so my mom has always worked with the government. Like, she's typical Nigerian civil servant. So she's not necessarily a business person. But I have always been, even in university, when I buy jeans and they don't fit anymore or something, I'll sell them. I used to make coconut candy in school and sell them. But the kind of parents I have, my dad would be like, oh, you're making people think that I'm not taking care of you and all of that. But I just enjoyed selling. And looking back now, I think that my grandma, I spent a lot of time with her and she used to sell everything. She would sell newspapers. She would sell the fruits off the trees. She would go to, like, when to tell them, so we had trees, lots of fruit trees. So when they're in season, she'd get people from the market to come buy the fruits off the trees. Right. So there was mangoes, there was pear. So I want to say I got that from her. The whole wanting to do some kind of business, I got it from her. But then it was stifled when I was with my parents because they didn't believe in anything business. They thought business was beneath them. And it was something that low-class people did. Well, that's another misconception too. My dad firmly believed that people who do business were beneath him.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is really interesting.
So when I started my fabric business in Dubai, I didn't tell him because I thought he would be ashamed of me, right? So after a while, I did tell him and I told my mom, but I didn't tell other members of my dad's family because I thought it was beneath them. How can one of, because they hold themselves very highly. They're a bunch of arrogant people. But so I didn't tell them because I was just like, oh, I didn't want them to feel like I let them down. But anyway, so I've always been like that. So when my sister came to stay with me in Dubai, And she was like, oh, she was in the youth, she was doing her youth service at the time. And I was like, what are you going to go back to do in Nigeria? When you go back, what are you going to do? She's like, oh, she's going to get a job. I'm like, what's on the side? What are you going to be doing? She's like, she doesn't know what. So I was like, you know what? Follow me. So we went to Dubai market and we got handbags and we bought bags. And I said, take them. I'm going to buy them with my money, but you're going to pay me back. Take them to Nigeria, sell them, and pay me back my money. If you don't pay me back my money, I'm coming for you. So she was like, oh, okay. And then she took them to Nigeria, she sold them, and she paid me back. And I sent another one to her again. And then she started selling handbags. And then she was like, oh, what else can I add? And then from there, she contacted people in China. She started to sell lingerie, beautiful lingerie. So she set up a handbag and lingerie company, not company, like a shop in Nigeria. She was doing really, really well. And she was there. But then I was like, you know, it's time to move here. So we got her papers, and then she came here and started to work. And I'm like, okay, now you're here. You've left that business. What are you going to do next? And she was like, oh, when she finishes school, she'll start something else. And then now she's finished school. She's settling down. She's like, you know what? I'm ready to start my business. She took a class in balloon making and decor and events and all of that. And she's launched now. So she's always run a business, and she was just a matter of time for her to start here. So when she started, my mom was like, oh, my mom came here and she's like, oh, everybody's doing something. I'm not doing anything. I'm like, okay, so what can you do, mom? She was like, oh, she wants maybe child minding. But then I know that my mom is not. Child minding is too much. It would have been too much for her, having to run after kids and all of that. So she did it for a while. She was like, oh, what else can I do? I said, okay, what can you do? And she's like, oh, I can make snacks. And she's always, we're a family of bakers. We've always baked and made stuff like this at home. So I'm like, okay, how about try making meat pie and trying. So she did the first one and we sold it. And the person was like, oh my goodness, it tastes just like Nigerian meat pie. I'm like, oh, mom, see. And then she added meat pie and she added snacks and all of that. And that's how it grew. So I don't know how it started. It just evolved.
Yeah. That's so cool. And obviously it's been such a big part of your life. So I'm curious, that mentality of like, you know, starting your business means you're like lower class. Yeah. Did you internalize that at all and ever feel kind of any shame around it? Or did you always feel pretty empowered in it?
So it's mixed feelings, right? So something you hear all your life, there's no way it doesn't impact on your life, on your,
of course,
on your life. So so sometimes when I first meet people here and they say, what do you do? I struggle. What do I say? What do I say? I'm not working. I don't have a job. What do I say? How do I introduce myself? Because quote and unquote, I'm not nothing, but that's what I think. I'm like, I'm nothing. Like, I own a business. What do I do? Okay. So then I'm like, oh, I run my own business. And they're like, oh, what do you do? And then I'm like, okay, maybe I should continue. And then I continue to talk. But the first reaction when people ask me, what do you do? Is to think, oh my goodness, I'm about to make people think less of me than I am, really.
Yeah.
So I know it's not true. My subconscious knows it's not true. I know it's not true. But then there's always that.
Still have that little voice.
So a few days ago, I think it was Mother's Day, my daughter came home with, oh, tell me about your mother thing. And the first thing she was like, my mom is a food seller. I'm like, wow, food seller, child.
You're like, don't love it. That's so funny.
So, I was like, no, child, I run a business. And she was like, yes, but the business is selling food. Yeah, food seller.
I was like, I don't know what to say.
How old is this your daughter?
She'll be 7 in November.
That is
She's like,
so interesting.
No,
I love it.
She's like, entrepreneur. You're selling food.
Exactly. She's like, get to the point. Like, this is what you do.
Well, okay, I sell food.
No, I think that's so interesting because I feel like obviously it's so different depending on where you go. But I feel like here, automatically you hear like, oh, I'm a business owner and I do. The first thought is like, oh wow, you're so successful. You started your own business and have been able to like make it work. That's people's first thought. And so it's interesting how like you said, it does get internalized to the point where like when somebody asks what do, you get that little reaction of like, okay, I had to say it. I have to like reveal myself.
My cousin from my dad's side followed me on Instagram and I went into full panic mode.
Wow.
How did he find me? Oh my goodness, they're going to know what I do. And then my sister was like, calm down, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know, but how did he find me? Wow. I still don't know how he found me, but I didn't ask. I just acted like I don't know what. But I'm just like, why? Because he's doing well. Like, he's not running a business. He's in the family like full-time work, 9 to 5 type of thing. So I'm like, how did he find me?
Wow.
Why did he find me in the
Yeah.
first place? And most importantly, when he says anything, like, Ejemen, what do I say? What am I doing?
Wow.
She gets. But he hasn't said anything, so we haven't had that conversation
Yeah.
yet. It was so weird that even after I've won the best Calgary food store in Calgary twice.
Oh my gosh!
I didn't even post it on
That's
my.
crazy.
I didn't post it on my personal Instagram page. I didn't post it on my personal WhatsApp page because my family is there. Because they're going to be like,
Wow.
food store, really?
That's crazy. Because here it's like that's the ultimate side that
Yeah.
you made it. That's the dream.
Yeah,
like
but-
to be able to have your visit, like make your own hours, be your own, and not be in the 9 to 5 system.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's so funny how much like that family culture, like it
I
just
know.
impacts so
I know.
much. Where
And just little things your family says kind of
yeah.
conditions how you think about things and how you.
yeah.
That's why I'm very careful with my kid not to throw words around because it might seem just random talk to you and you laugh about it, but the child and even adults to take these things and internalize it and begin to see themselves through that lens of
yeah.
and it colors their whole perception of themselves and life in general and just kind of alters and it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah.
Do you know, even my own personal page, I don't put anything that has to do with photography there. Because there's this perception growing up about who a photographer is. Like, oh, it's just those
Take
ones that used to just
pictures.
charge and be like, just snap picture anyhow and then collect how much. So like, I
You
can
owe me
totally
money.
relate with that.
Yeah.
But like in this part of the world, it's
different.
different.
Yeah.
Like you're making a lot of money. Like there must be something in your heart that would help to correct the notion of your business
So
and
with my
how
family-
well with both your family and even the general perspective, because even I had that perspective of myself to the point where on my personal page there's nothing that has to do with photography or where I am, because it almost is like, okay, you came from working as a civil servant and then you come here and now you're carrying a camera up and down, you're taking pictures, that kind of thing.
My mom said, "Oh, so you left Nigeria to come here and sell crayfish?"
You see? So yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. She laughed and she laughed, but then because I already have those thoughts, I was like, oh my goodness, really, this is what I've been reduced
Exactly.
to, right? I'm now a crayfish seller. And couple of months ago, a former friend of mine said to me, we're just banter, and she was like, oh, I have to wake up tomorrow morning and go to work. And I was like, oh, I can't relate. And she was like, well, I can't relate to you to going to deliver $5 crayfish. If I drive 47 kilometers to deliver $5 crayfish. And I thought that was a bit too much for what we said. I felt it came from a different place than where I was coming from. And I thought, is that what she really thought about me? And if she was a quote unquote a friend, that's what she thought, then I wonder what other people also think about me. We're not friends anymore, thank God. Because that's not the kind of person you want to keep in your life. But however, she said it. Maybe she remembers, maybe she doesn't. I don't really care. But it also fed into what's already in my
narrative.
head.
Exactly.
And I thought, oh really? Because at the time when I first started, I was doing deliveries myself. Right, so someone will place an order, I'll get into the car and I'll drive 47 kilometers really to go deliver what they want. But I've come a long way from that. I've outsourced my deliveries now. I don't even know. I just get my items have been delivered. I'm like, okay, yeah, good. Yeah. So I've come a long way from that. But at the time, I was spending a lot of time outside the home, delivering, sourcing, looking for wholesalers. I was hardly ever at home. So when she said that, I'm like, oh wow, okay, so maybe everything I'm doing is actually just rubbish. It just comes down to you're selling crayfish kind of thing.
Yeah, people will go out of their way to kind of
Bring you
diminish
down.
what
I think
you're
that
doing.
comment came from, I don't know, it wasn't from the banter that we're having. It must have been something else going on in her head, or a need to demean, like you said, diminish what I was doing and make me feel like what do you even think you're doing? sir?"
Exactly.
That kind of
To
thing.
being like, oh,
But
this
anyway.
is, which, yeah, by the way, that is what starting a business requires, is that hands-on. If you look at anybody who's starting a business in their first couple of years, they're doing everything.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
getting in
you're
their
doing
car,
the
they're
work.
driving around,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
finding everything,
Yeah.
you know, and it's only, you know, if you're able
Yeah, and if
to
I
put in
didn't
the
do
work and
that,
hustle,
then
you wouldn't
I
be
won't.
here.
I won't be the person I am today. Because I
Exactly.
made personal connections with my customers. I have customers who have been consistent for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, why did you guys choose me? Like, why? Do you understand? But I feel like if I didn't put in that work at the beginning, get to know them, meet them, and all of that, I probably would have fallen by the wayside by now, because other
yeah.
people started at the same time I did too. People started after me and they're not there anymore. I'm not saying that I'm doing excellently. I'm not saying that I'm the best or whatever. I'm saying that I put in consistent work and it's paying off.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
100%.
So you're not living from hand to mouth. You're living very comfortably, and you're paying your bills very well. And you're actually, I feel like you're also someone who is solving a problem. Because I also had that problem of finding where to get
Yeah.
African
I know.
food, like ingredients and all of that. And in order for you to also teach your kids how to eat, you need to cook the food for them to see it, right?
And to enjoy
And yeah, like you've actually come into Calgary and you solved the problem of where to get African food stuff. And there are so many immigrants who would actually need that and want where to buy. So you've solved the problem. You found your niche and you solved the problem, which is a very commendable thing for you. So I feel like you should pat yourself on the back.
Yeah,
So-
forget the haters.
Yeah, exactly. Like that.
Haters, that's how you know you've made it, actually, is when you have haters.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you lost that friend, because that's not a friend. A friend that
I
would
didn't
want
lose
to bring.
her. She transited through my life. And
Yes, which is
it was not a loss.
It wasn't a loss. Yes, I take that back. You
wasn't
didn't
a
lose
loss.
her. Like, I'm glad you guys are no longer friends, because you don't need someone who's gonna put you
Yeah.
put you down. You need someone who's gonna uplift you, especially in this place where there are so many things that put you down already. So many things are stacked against you, and you just need something to lift you up. We need each other to be able to lift us up, and that's what the Diary of a Niger Immigrant is all about: to uplift each other and make each other feel good and comfortable in our own skin and in our accomplishments. One question that actually comes to mind is, because you sell African food stuff, Nigerian food stuff, it feels like you're gonna be in a particular bubble. Your mom also sells snacks, that African snacks. Your sister sells does the whole decoration thing, although she
That's
might
not
do it for
Nigerian
that's not
for everybody.
Nigerian. So but it feels like you might be in a particular bubble. And do you feel like that kind of affects you sometimes, because this is your niche and it's completely African? Do you feel like sometimes when it's time to like relate with the other world of Caucasians, Indians, Asians, like the whole Canadian experience, do you feel like it has a play in the way you're able to fit in to that society?
No, I don't think so. It's like saying, because I sell, let's say, fishing products, I'm only able to relate with people who are fishermen. But no, that's the business is separate from who I am as a human being, because I can still have, like, I don't have a good many friends, but then the ones that we still hang out, we go out. I'm going out later tonight. So I'm still able to have a life outside of the business. You get? So it's two different worlds,
That's
so to speak.
awesome.
To make that separation.
Yeah.
Okay, love that. I think we'll move on to our final question.
Yeah.
Unless you have anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we asked this to everybody.
Okay.
Looking back on your journey and where you've been, where you are right now, is there anything that you wish you knew before purchasing that one-way ticket and deciding to immigrate? Now, obviously for you, you have like three
Serial immigrants.
Which one do we
journeys.
talk about? So I'm like,
Yeah.
honestly, you can pick one, like whatever makes sense. But yeah, anything that you just wish you knew before. Let's actually no. I'm gonna have to say, let's say before coming here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything I wish I knew? Well, I'd say I wish I knew I wasn't going to stay in the UK. I probably would have done a different degree that would be more marketable wherever I am in the world, rather than do a degree that was specific for the UK market, because I thought I was going to live in the UK. So, but then again, if I had done that degree and gotten to the workforce, maybe I would not have started the business. So it's a lot of maybes, but I really wish I hadn't done such a niche degree though. I just wish I had done something a bit more broad, so that, because sometimes I do miss working, right? Sometimes I want to dress up and go downtown, but I don't really get to, except when I'm hanging out with my friends, I don't really get to do that much anymore. I miss that part kind of, because so maybe if I had like a more broad degree, maybe if I still would like to go to school, because I'm done with school, I would have had this business as a side business at the same time, have a full-time job. So that's all, just the degree. But apart from that, nothing else.
That's so fair. I love that. And it's so true that, even if you had done that, maybe it wouldn't have kind of forced you to
but
like,
I don't know, because at the time I was working, I was also doing Amazon still. So I don't know. I think I've always done some kind of, I don't know.
We always kind of find our path.
We just find our path at the end of the day.
So true.
That's interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Except
so
you have
much.
any other thing to add? Or to say something you want to vent about?
No.
Are you sure?
Just saying, if you have Nigerian listeners, come by Mariel's Oasis.
Yes.
Our website has been built and we'll launch it at the end of the week, at the end of next week.
Actually, what's the best way for people to find you?
I'm on Instagram.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
Mariel's Oasis Foods.
Mariel's Oasis Foods. Awesome.
They can call me on call me on my number, or they can place their orders on WhatsApp.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Or they can just wait for the website to be out and they can place their orders on the website too.
Okay, cool.
You
I'm
have
so
a
excited to
current
make my
website,
orders.
Sorry?
Like,
You have a current website, don't you?
Yeah, so but it's like a mini website. I'm actually having something proper built, because now I'm able to ship outside Canada.
Oh,
wow.
cool.
I can ship everywhere in Canada, and I can ship in the US too. So I feel like with the website, it's easier to reach people than the mini one, right? So from the days of driving myself to go deliver, I've partnered with a couple of other delivery people. So I deliver
That's
everywhere: Yukon, Yellowknife, wherever.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
it takes 3 to 7 days to get your items. I'm not
That's
driving
amazing.
47 kilometers.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
Yeah, you
I
have.
love it.
And that question, that now leads me to like one question just popped in my head. Like, where do you see Mariel's Oasis in the next maybe 5 years?
Well, hopefully bigger, right? I'm looking into like setting up a physical store so that it's easier for people to reach me rather than just online. People sometimes, when I told a customer, so my website will be out soon, and she was like, oh, so that means I won't be seeing you anymore. I'm like, no, you will still see me. And so that means people still want a personal touch. So right now, I'm not sure how. I know we're going to be bigger. I know we're still going to be here, but I'm not sure exactly in what capacity, right? So is it going to be like a physical store, or are we just going to have like a warehouse where we're supplying other stores? We're still thinking and doing a lot of research, but that will still be here, I'm sure. Bigger, I'm sure, but in what capacity, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
So exciting. I love it. Can't wait to see what happens.
Yes. Watch out.
Yeah.
Watch this space.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for
you
joining
guys
us.
for
It's been a
having me.
great conversation.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening, everyone. So we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye. Diary of a Niger Immigrant is presented by Afros in the City in collaboration with Through Onyi's Lens.
You can keep up with us on Instagram by following Afros in the City, following Through Onyi's Lens, and of course, following Diary of a Niger Immigrant. Once you've done all that, just keep listening. Rate us, review us, love us, root for us. Until next time.